Because I induced students to fight and kill, parents sent me to a public trial. If 51 vote guilty, I die. When I faced the camera receiving nationwide condemnation, I smiled instead. No one knew I'd waited 10 years for this chance. I wore electronic shackles. Sitting upright in the defendant's seat, a giant screen above live-streamed every moment of our trial. The camera glided over my calm, cold face. Countless bullet comments flooded the screen. The public trial hadn't been activated in 2 years. Why today? Indeed, as comments said, years ago our nation suddenly witnessed strange phenomena. Whenever someone filed a lawsuit, both plaintiff and defendant were automatically pulled onto a high platform. There, a public trial live stream began. Both sides defended themselves while nationwide viewers voted. If over half voted guilty, judgment descended upon the platform, executing the criminal on the spot. On the platform, besides plaintiff and defendant, only an eerie mechanical voice served as presiding judge. Controlling everything, as I gathered my thoughts, the mechanical voice suddenly rang out. The public trial now begins. Plaintiff, speak. Across from me sat the plaintiffs. There sat my accusers, angry middle-aged man and woman, with a curly-haired woman in the middle. She suddenly slammed the table and stood, glaring at me with disgust. Zhuang Zinya, you have 5 crimes. As a teacher, you've abandoned morality. Instead of teaching properly, you dress flamboyantly and flaunt yourself. Seducing students and parents, that's crime 1. She poked the man beside her. The man with the small mustache shot her a frustrated glare. Father Fang quickly stood up. Continuing the accusation. During your time at Jinshi First High School, you taught my son Zia Yang and his classmate Fang Wenrui. You incited them to fight crime too. I curled my lips slightly, watching them with a faint, ambiguous smile. I'd seen them many times. They were Zia Yang's parents. Beside them, Father Fang couldn't hold back either. Zhuang Zinya, you coaxed my son Fang Wenrui into torturing animals. That's crime 3. Worst of all, you actually instigated Zia Yang to push my son down the stairs. That's crime 4. Mother Fang gnashed her teeth at me. My Wenrui used to be so obedient, never daring to raise his voice. Later he even dared to hit us. He even slapped me. That's crime 5. Zhuang Zinya, you taught him all this. You deserve death. In unison, they turned to the screen. Dear viewers, vote Zhuang Zinya guilty. She's a demon. Though both families desperately wanted me dead, the mechanical voice still impartially played its role as presiding judge. After their speeches, they tried to continue attacking me. But a cold voice interrupted. The mechanical voice said to me, defendant, speak. I slowly swept my gaze across the floor across from me, curling a confident, proud smile. Hello everyone, I am the wicked teacher they speak of, Zhuang Zinya. I admit, Zia Yang and Fang Wenrui were indeed my students. But of the 5 crimes these parents accuse me of, I admit none. If a defendant pleads not guilty, the mechanical voice plays their crime footage. I didn't know what technology this was, but it had indeed curbed crime rates, yet having it used on me was hardly a pleasant prospect. Sure enough, the mechanical voice rang out, now playing defendant's crime footage, crime 1. On the screen, from my perspective, past events began rapidly replaying. After graduating college, I taught at Jinshi First High School, starting as a trainee teacher. I was diligent, preparing lessons until midnight every night, even as just a subject teacher. I still cared for every student. When a boy coughed endlessly in class, I gave him cold medicine, or took him to the infirmary. When a girl looked pale, clutching her stomach, lying on her desk, I'd brew brown sugar water for her in the office and give her a heat pack. My drawer was always stocked with these things. High school students worked hard. I could only do what I could. My Chinese classes ranked first in the grade every year. Students got along well with me. Every teacher's day, they'd rush to give me gifts. I only accepted handmade ones they made themselves. I never accepted bought gifts. I was always proper and modest, never flashy at school. Couldn't do makeup either, played the role of a substitute teacher, 4 years on the job. Had always been so. The crime replay was still playing, what everyone expected didn't appear. Instead, I treated Zia Yang and Fang Wenrui extremely well. Their Chinese was lopsided, so I kept them for tutoring and even showed them some educational movies or clips, and between us, it was a normal teacher-student distance. but compared to other teachers, they trusted me a bit more, perhaps because I used a gentle, encouraging teaching style. Accusing Zia Yang's dad was pure nonsense. It was Zia Yang's dad who, with a stern face, approached me for contact info, and I refused. I told him we could just stay in touch via the parent group, or have Zia Yang's mom add me on WeChat. How could someone as proper and composed as me be the criminal Zia Yang's mom spoke of? Each crime. After the replay ended, both plaintiff and defendant had a free conversation period. Right after Ziyin finished, Zia's mom slapped Zia's dad on the head. Her scream nearly pierced my eardrums. Zia's dad. It was clearly you who sought out that monitor's contact info, and you lied to me, saying she fancied your car and insisted on adding you. Such lies could swallow many young female teachers. Luckily, I had this public trial platform to clear my name. Zia's dad's hat was knocked off, revealing a stubbly face, but the audience still recognized him instantly. Dan. Isn't that Zia's dad, the top-tier director of cinematic masterpieces, who'd launched many famous stars? The mechanical voice reappeared, interrupting the couple's quarrel and the barrage comments. Now playing the defendant's crime replay, 2 offenses, both of us on the stage. Were muted again, and the past began to unfold. Besides me tutoring the two, and occasionally caring about their normal lives, I just played educational films in the office. There were no other improper conversations, let alone any instigation. Zia's dad was stunned too. He had already retied and adjusted his hat, now stroking his little mustache. In disbelief, he said to the light screen, "Judge, I suspect the crime replay has issues. I request a thorough check before replaying, this time with a public trial." We had conducted rigorous investigations with the school and police. Only Zhuang Zinya had the potential for such educational crimes. The previously flat, cold mechanical voice suddenly carried a hint of a sneer. "You mean I'm shielding the defendant Zhuang Zinya?" Zia's mom, terrified, quickly grabbed Zia's dad. "Stop talking." On the high platform, the mechanical voice was the absolute god of judgment and absolute ruler. Once before, a defendant, dissatisfied with his crime replay being aired publicly, directly insulted the mechanical voice. Before it even reached the voting stage, 9 purple thunderbolts descended from above the stage, reducing that defendant to ashes. Since then, on the public trial stage, everyone had become much more obedient, thanks to his wife's reminder. Zia's dad, used to arrogance, snapped back to his senses and quickly clasped his hands, apologizing to the heir. "Sorry, Judge, I didn't mean it that way." The mechanical voice gave a cold snort, didn't dwell on it, and continued matter-of-factly. Now playing the defendant's crime replay, 3 offenses. The third was filed by Fang's dad. He claimed I lured Fan Wenrui and Zia Yang into torturing animals, but the replay footage started from the first day I met Fang Wenrui and Zia Yang. I never said anything like telling them to torture animals. But it was true that Fang Wenrui and Zia Yang tortured animals. After arguing with their parents to punish them, they grabbed their parents' cats and dogs and killed them. The next morning, when the parents opened the living room door, blood was everywhere, scaring them half to death. The 4th offense was also Fang Wenrui's dad's accusation against me, claiming I instigated pushing Fang Wenrui down the stairs. The crime replay on the screen showed none of it had any real connection to me. That day, I tutored them in the office as usual, then played them a movie. During it, the 2 boys kept yelling, full of wow. "So cool." Class ended, movie finished. I smiled and saw them off before they left. He also told them to be careful on the way home, but somehow the 2 newly assigned boys got into a physical altercation. Neither would back down. Then Ziyang shoved Fang Wenrui off. Blood spilled everywhere, causing Fang Wenrui's left leg to shatter, never able to do strenuous exercise again. As for the 5th crime Fang's mother mentioned, it was that Fang Wenrui dared to fight back, even slapping him. The crime replay showed. Indeed, that day while eating, Fang Wenrui kept playing on his phone. Scolded by his mother, Fang Wenrui stood up and smashed the dishes, making her even angrier. She said harsh words and tried to hit him, but the tall Fang Wenrui grabbed her hand and slapped her back. That night they also killed their cat. As for what happened at Ziyang's house, it was much the same. They killed the dog their parents raised, then posted it on social media, proudly claiming they finally rebelled against their parents once. All 5 crime replays finished playing. But scanning the room, my habit of feeling embarrassed for others kicked in again. The 4 plaintiffs seemed to have done nothing wrong, pretending to be innocent. These bullet comments defending me didn't make the Zia and Fang families reflect at all. Instead, a smug satisfaction rose on their faces. The mechanical voice said, "Crime replays complete, now entering free defense time. Debate over, public voting begins." Fang's father struck first. He stood up, sneering at me coldly. "Shuang Zinya, did you think you'd won? That's where you're disappointed." He suddenly looked up at the screen. Chin raised, he declared loudly, "Hello everyone, my name is Fang Yingtai, a screenwriter. Also Fang Wenrui's father. As far as I know, juvenile and adolescent crime isn't just through direct words. You only noticed Zhuang Zinya didn't commit verbal crimes. But you missed the biggest issue in every scene. He was playing movies for Fang Wenrui and Ziyang. Zhuang Zinya, dare you tell us what kind of films you showed them?" Hearing this, I, who had been drowsy, was instantly wide awake. Finally the main event arrived. I sat up straight in the defendant's seat. Slowly looking at Fang's father, I smiled calmly, as expected of the renowned screenwriter Fang Yinkai. "Congratulations, you guessed right." Fang's father smiled triumphantly, standing tall, speaking firmly to the screen. "Judge and all viewers, you all saw that. Zhuang Zinya admitted it. He's guilty. He's the mastermind behind it all. He'd incited the students to commit crimes." Hearing this, the 3 beside Fang's father, who had been dejected, lit up and chimed in. "Yes, Your Honor, Zhuang Zinya confessed it himself. He used psychological manipulation and film suggestions to kill. The public trial is sacred. The Guanping system is fair. Even facing such a situation, it still rigidly followed procedure and asked me, Defendant Zhuang Zinya, do you admit to inducing students to commit crimes? Under Guanping's scan, no criminal can hide." But I just calmly curled my lips and nodded, yes. I admit I often showed Zia Yang and Fang Wenrui a certain bloody violent crime film. A cold gleam flashed on Guanping, the mechanical voice rang mercilessly, given Defendant Zhuang Zinya's confession. This public vote begins immediately. If over 50 of people find Zhuang Zinya guilty, he is guilty and will face judgment. Voting begins now. The 4 plaintiffs sighed in relief, flashing vicious smiles at me. The numbers on the screen visibly jumped, increasing wildly. Just as it was about to cross the 50 line, I suddenly spoke up loudly, "Wait, I want to appeal." Even real criminals have the right to appeal. The public trial, to simulate reality as closely as possible, kept this rule: criminals get 1 appeal. The voting page on the screen froze immediately, stuck at 50. The mechanical voice slowly sounded, "Go ahead." I stood up from my seat. Looking up at the screen, I spoke to the audience. "I'd like to ask you all, do you think I showed the students the crime film that apologizes in blood is guilty, but have you ever wondered if the person who made it is equally guilty? But thinking about it, that makes sense, though we still don't seem to know. What movie exactly did you show Zia Yang and Fang Wenrui? Tell us. Let's reevaluate." I turned to face Zia Yang's parents and Fang Wenrui's parents. This question still needs to be asked of Zia Yang and Fang Wenrui. 10 years ago, you 2 collaborated and produced a sensational masterpiece. After it premiered, your whole team became famous overnight. Do you still remember what that movie was about? The entire room fell silent, especially the 4 parents' faces, like a palette of red and blue intertwined. Shocked and uncertain, finally a bullet comment appeared and answered my question. "Zhuang Zinya, are you talking about Zia Yang's breakout work, Fleeing Fate?" The screenwriter of that movie was indeed Fang. "But what does that movie have to do with your crime?" I suddenly burst out laughing. Yes, Fleeing Fate was such an excellent film. It was also the proud work of director Zia and screenwriter Fang, so what crime did I commit by showing it to their children? The world seemed to hit pause. My rebuttal was extremely effective. Father Zia and Father Fang turned pale, staring at me fixedly, lips pressed tight, as if wanting to say something, but in the end said nothing. But Mother Zia clearly had no such restraint, standing up with her curly hair and shouting at me. "Zhuang Zinya, cut it out. Your Honor, we request that the footage be played. Of what she showed my son and the others, that was definitely not the movie my husband made, Fatal Escape. The reason the light screen hadn't done this before was consideration that there were children among the jurors. But now, since neither plaintiff nor defendant objected, he had no choice but to comply. Soon, the footage appeared clearly on the light screen to today's middle-aged viewers. Fatal Escape was not an unfamiliar film. After all, it was the box office king of its year. Most of us had seen it, but the content playing on the light screen differed from the movie in our memories. And everyone was shocked. Wait, this isn't right. The Fatal Escape I saw 10 years ago wasn't like this. Chuang Xinya. You really will stop at nothing to delay your death. Digging up some garbage movie from who knows where. Drowning out director Zia and screenwriter Fang, watching the chaos before me, I sat as still as an old monk. When their emotions peaked, when they were ready to vote immediately to put me to death, I finally spoke slowly. Who told you that Fatal Escape only has one version? The real Fatal Escape has an original print. And the award-winning reprint that came later. The award-winning one was the reprint. The one I showed to Zia Yang and Fang Wenrui was the original print. Watching the audience still in the dark, I sneered. I am filing an appeal against director Zia Kuo and screenwriter Fang Yingkai, suing them for distorting the truth. Adapting a victim's real story, but embellishing it and smearing the victim. Whitewashing and glorifying the criminals, causing secondary harm to the victim, destroying their family. Dear Your Honor, therefore I request a public trial for Zia Kuo and Fang Yingkai. The 4 members of the Zia and Fang families' faces changed drastically, but they were powerless to stop the mechanical voice. I allow it, that is your right. Even the defendant has the right to one appeal. But Zia Zhai went crazy, shouting at me, I don't agree. Chuang Xinya, what right do you have to initiate a public trial? Yes, I truly didn't have the right. Over the years I tried many times. But I could never trigger the public trial, so I had to use myself as bait to get close to their son, and induce their son to commit crimes. Let them discover it, let them hate me, let them send me to the trial platform with their own hands. I waited 10 years for this opportunity. I looked at them, completely tearing off my hypocritical mask. Of course I have the right, because the victim you harmed a second time was my sister. 13 years ago, my sister Zhuang Zinman had just graduated from journalism school and was interning at a TV station. That day, a rampant trafficking ring appeared in the city. The senior reporters were all out on other assignments. They were short-staffed, but they still needed first-hand information on the trafficking ring, so my sister volunteered. After taking on this mission, my sister had a college classmate named Lin Jun, both interning at other departments of the TV station. Once she learned about it, she insisted on coming along to help my sister track down the Guanmai gang. So the two teamed up and set out on the mission together, enduring many setbacks along the way. They finally located the Guanmai gang's temporary hideout in the city, and my sister was overjoyed. Just as she was about to contact the police, a sharp pain suddenly struck the back of her head. Someone knocked her out. Before losing consciousness, she heard a familiar male voice whisper nearby. Heaven has a road you refuse to take. Hell has no gate, yet you insist on entering. Why play the hero? I never wanted to hurt you. When she opened her eyes, she was already captured by the gang, and Lin Jun stood with folded arms. At the center of the gang, looking down at her, 3 young gang members gathered around. Grinning, they said, Sister, Brother Jun, you really are the one for the job. A swift strike captured her. It turned out Lin Jun had been part of the trafficking ring all along. The 4 used various tricks, exploiting girls' sympathy and kindness over the years. They had trafficked many girls. What followed was much the same as every trafficking story. My sister suffered inhuman torture, because she had known Lin Jun for years, and had often shown interest. She had politely rejected him. Perhaps out of revenge, he treated her even worse. Countless brutal and bloody methods were inflicted on her one after another. In her struggle, she bit off one of Lin Jun's ears, which enraged him further, so he kept her by his side to torment. Every escape attempt left her limbs broken countless times, yet she never lost the will to flee. Along with her were 2 other trafficked girls. Finally, when Lin Jun went down the mountain again to personally carry out a trafficking, my sister and the 2 girls, following a long-planned route, began another escape attempt, but in the unfamiliar deep mountains, fleeing on two injured legs. Was no easy feat. Soon, Lin Jun and the villagers caught up. At the critical moment, my sister single-handedly stood in front of Lin Jun and his men. Buying time for the two girls to escape, behind them echoed my sister's agonizing screams. The two girls ran desperately forward, knowing they carried the fate of all trafficked women. Finally, just before collapsing from exhaustion, they were rescued by police who arrested the entire trafficking ring led by Lin Jun, my sister and the other victims. Were all freed. During her time trapped in the village, she never stopped collecting evidence. She handed all the secretly gathered evidence to the police, and in court, bravely testified against Lin Jun and the others. They were ultimately sentenced to death, but the prolonged abuse left my sister needing time to heal psychologically, so our family took her on a trip to relax, gradually helping her recover, just as a smile finally returned to her face. A film crew came knocking, saying they were moved by her story and wanted to adapt it into a movie. At first, my sister refused. She didn't want to reopen old wounds. But the film crew not only visited repeatedly, the mustached director began appealing to her sense of purpose. If this trafficking story could become a film, it would not only warn women to stay safe, but also serve as a deterrent. My sister finally agreed, but no one expected this to be the beginning of a nightmare. A year later, the film was completed, and my sister finally saw the final cut. That was only after she strongly demanded it. Throughout the year, she had asked to see the script, but the mustached director refused, saying it involved a confidentiality agreement. They couldn't reveal it to her. She'd see it once the film was released, since it was based on her own story. My sister didn't understand the legal contracts and assumed this was normal, so she could only wait. Finally, the film premiered. The family entered the theater expecting to see a story about fighting traffickers or outwitting the criminal gang. But from the very beginning, the film was told from Lin Jun's perspective, using multiple camera angles to glorify the four's arrogance, cunning, and charm. Starting from their childhood experiences, comprehensively portraying why traffickers become traffickers, saying they were left behind children, saying their mothers. They abandoned them and left the mountains, yet they suffered so much while still being oppressed by local bullies. Reduced to the lowest class, they were forced into trafficking, even becoming traffickers themselves. But they remained filial, trafficking women by day, returning home by night. They even cooked and gathered pig feed for you. See how well-rounded this character is. The film glorifies the brutality of Lin Jun and other traffickers. It beautifies bloodshed as aesthetic violence, misleading young viewers into chanting slogans. Lin Jun, stop trafficking Xiao Man, come take my heart instead. Lin Jun is the film alias for the trafficker. Xiao Man is my sister's alias. She wasn't even worthy of a full name. The film also downplays the police, reducing them to a mere backdrop, always in meetings or on their way to meetings, yet in reality, the police sacrificed greatly to finally capture the entire trafficking ring. Without their timely intervention, my sister and those girls would never have escaped the mountains. Most importantly, this film vilified the victims. My sister Xiao Man was turned into a lovesick girl infatuated with Lin Jun's looks. She pestered her relentlessly, insisting on following her back to her hometown. Originally, Lin Jun didn't want to harm Xiao Man, but Xiao Man drugged her, pushing Lin Jun past her limits. So she trafficked Xiao Man to her hometown. In this scene, Lin Jun delivers her classic line. A disgusting line. She gripped Xiao Man's neck, looking down coldly at her struggling to breathe. You want me that badly? Fine, I'll give myself to you. You'll be with me forever. Trafficked into the mountains, Xiao Man's infatuation sabotaged the other girls' escape plans. On the night of their final escape attempt, Xiao Man, while Lin Jun slept, stole a reluctant kiss on her cheek, and Lin Jun's lashes trembled, but she never opened her eyes. Later, director Mustache offered his deep interpretation. Lin Jun wasn't asleep that night. She and Xiao Man were a couple bound by pure hatred. She tormented Xiao Man, yet unknowingly fell for her prey, and Xiao Man hated her, but occasionally melted at her moments of tenderness. Lin Jun was gambling that Xiao Man wouldn't leave. But in the end, she lost that bet. It was Xiao Man's struggle between emotion and reason, a breakthrough for herself. My sister Zhuang Xinmin never once liked that criminal Ling Jun. She wasn't the film's vilified, objectified, romance-obsessed Xiao man. Why wrap suffering in the guise of love? Why add romantic melodrama to victims? Countless viewers, after the trailer and premiere, hurled abuse and mockery at Xiao man, saying if she hadn't pestered Ling Jun, she wouldn't have been trafficked, saying if she weren't so stupid, she wouldn't have gotten those trafficked girls killed in the village, saying they wished she'd never been rescued, saying why should Ling Jun get the death penalty while Xiao man gets to live, saying she should have died for love, since Ling Jun loved her so much. I just want to laugh out loud. The villain wasn't condemned, but worshipped instead. The victim wasn't protected, but vilified and hurt again. The film succeeded. It succeeded in driving my sister to jump off a building 3 days after watching the premiere full of hope. It was that act that made our parents' complaints, previously ignored, heard by netizens, and taken seriously. The film was pulled, then re-released a month later. This is the famous thriller Fatal Escape, directed by Xia Zhai. Written by Fang Yingkai. The crime documentary ends. Committee members, the results are in. Tell me, if I show Xia Yang and Fang Wenrui that the published version of Fatal Escape is criminal, then shouldn't the filmmakers be the ones deserving death? The audience wants me convicted only because I showed 2 students a violent, bloody film and led them to crime. If I'm convicted, then those who made such films are even more guilty of death. This is the opportunity I've waited 10 years for. It doesn't matter if I die, they must die too. Let's see how Daddy Xia and Fang Wenrui try to defend themselves this time. Zhuang Xinye, we already took down the published version. Why must you keep pushing? Daddy Xia grabbed his mustache, looking at me with anguish, while Fang Wenrui hurriedly explained. We compensated your family back then. Why do you still want to hurt our children? I laughed in fury. Yes, you took it down, but then re-released it and made a fortune. But what about my sister? She was my parents' child too, and she can never come back. You drove my sister to her death. A faint sigh echoed over the broadcast. Daddy Xia and Fang Wenrui tried to argue, but the mechanical voice activated a mute function, then her cold voice rang out. Given that defendants Daddy Xia and Fang Wenrui have confessed, the national vote begins now. If over 50 believe Xia's dad and Fang Yinkai are innocent, if guilty, they will be judged. Voting starts now. That voice reached my ears like heavenly music. Xia's mom and Fang's mom raged and shouted, "No, when did my husband confess?" I kindly explained, starting from when they said the published version was pulled long ago, why I kept pressing. They had already admitted their guilt. I didn't find these women innocent, based on my investigation. 10 years ago, they were already by Xia's dad and Fang Yinkai's side. Xia's mom was an investor's daughter. Fang's mom was also a screenwriter who advised on adapting famous works, but the credit went to Fang Yinkai. From the moment I chose revenge, I abandoned my kindness. The path of revenge never spares the innocent, whether Xia Yang or Fang Wenrui. They were all beneficiaries under Fu Baiyan's shadow. They all must be punished. They must atone for my sister and those victims. Finally, the number on the screen kept rising. It stopped at 99. So many people voted Xia Zhai and Fang Yinkai guilty. The 2 men, once so calm, collapsed pale-faced. They knew they were finished, but unwilling, they roared in anger and decided to drag me down too. I appeal. Zhuang Xinye is equally guilty. He'd accused my son of crimes too. The screen naturally responded, opening a voting channel for me. The vote page stuck at 49 reappeared, but the accusations backfired. Zhuang Xinye hadn't accused anyone, merely showed what Xia Yang and Fang Wenrui's parents had filmed. If they knew their recordings weren't suitable for children, why film them at all? Damn them! A smile rose in my eyes. A victor's smile, looking at the 2 families on the ground. I owe this to Xia Zhai and Fang Yinkai. They taught me, if you craft your image well enough, the audience will excuse you. Even in silence, I knew I'd won this round, and those garbage who don't even remember my sister's name or family will meet their deserved end. Sure enough, my vote count stalled at 49. Then from the pitch-black dome above came a strange screech, followed by 2 bolts like lightning or something else, tearing through the sky, shooting straight to Xia Zhai and Fang Yinkai. The next second, both vanished screaming. A mechanical voice sounded. giving us the answer. Divine punishment has begun. Zia Zhai. Fang Yingkai will suffer endless torment across countless timelines, desperately trying to survive. Failing every time, dying in agony. The national trial has concluded. I was teleported out, standing at the school gate in the real world. Zia's mom and Fang's mom followed close behind, eyes bloodshot. It's all your fault. If not for you, our sons and husbands wouldn't have met this end. They rushed to hit me, but I turned and kicked them to the ground. I was about to start my new life. With that, I didn't bother looking at their faces. I sent Sicheng to the principal's office, then strode away. The sun was beautiful today. I think tomorrow will be too. Sister, can you see this?